Alright, we're back. Thanks for your patience on this one, everyone. I took a little bit of a break during Thanksgiving, and this holiday season coming up, I'll probably be doing the same. And I want to encourage all of you, make sure you take some time to spend with your families and friends. Don't give in to the pressure to work and produce every minute of every day. Life is so short, and so give yourself time to spend it with the people that are the most important to you. If you're just hopping on the series, we're looking at the Metroid Dread soundtrack and seeing what elements of it, in my opinion, could have been improved, and taking a swing at some of my own ideas with how I would have composed the music. And this time we're taking a look at Ferenia, and spoiler, this is actually going to be part 1 of 2 on this area. On the last video I said I'd be really happy to get to 1,000 subs, and we blew past that threshold and more, and so I want to say to all my new subscribers, to all of you that have been here for a long time as well, thank you so much for being here. I'm just really looking forward to continuing this journey with you all. If you're here and you haven't subscribed, please take a second to hit the button if you're enjoying the videos and the music. And there's also a link in the description to my SoundCloud if you're interested in hearing my stuff over there. With that said, let's take a look at the original Ferenia track and dive into the video. There's definitely a lot to like on this one. I'd say it's in the upper portion of my favorites from Metroid Dread as a whole, especially in the first couple of ideas that are presented in the beginning. We start with this ambient, haunting choral part before the rhythm kicks in, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And then we drop into the groove that carries through the rest of the track, and we get some more catchier ideas in the beginning. There's this type of call and response between those long, dissonant harmonic minor chords and a soft quarter note pulse. Speaking of, I hear most of this track as being in C harmonic minor. So a harmonic minor scale, it's similar to a natural minor, but does sound quite different because the 7th degree is raised 1/2 step to a natural 7th, which is also a 1/2 step away from the root of the scale. This note in classical music is called the leading tone because it has a strong push to want to resolve or lead to the root of the key. In the case of Ferenia, the raised 7th isn't really used in that way like a leading tone, but instead just is utilized more simply to create a more brighter and dissonant color throughout this area. It's used in different ways in the melodies and the harmonies to create a lot of augmented chords that really define the harmony of this track, and those are used throughout this game in general as well. One thing I want to talk about with this track that I think I could also say is true of a lot of the Dread soundtrack to me personally is I think there are a lot of good ideas that seem to be stifled by the really vanilla instrumentation and arranging. So when I'm listening to this, I'm hearing those interesting choral parts, the percussive strings, the groovy bass line, and the piano and cello, and honestly I feel like the instruments being used, as well as the way that it's all mixed together, is sort of just falling flat for me. And I could see the exact same piece of music being improved by simply utilizing a more interesting sound palette, which is what I want to demonstrate by listening to a version of this that I heard, and actually was in part what inspired me to make this series when I saw this video. Thanks so much to this user for letting me use this, and check out the link in the description to go to his channel. So what's interesting about that to me is when I heard it, I was immediately more captivated by the composition than in the original. And I don't think it's simply because of the nostalgia that I have for, the 16-bit style. I think what's happening here is we've stripped away a lot of the clutter and we're letting the melody and the important parts of the track shine through. Your ear very clearly knows what to pay attention to. And more than just that, overall, I think the sound's being used to paint a better picture, even though it's that lo-fi quality. The percussion especially has a much more purposeful role in this version to me. So it begs the question to me, what does Ferenia really call for musically? And that question led me to the second thing that I felt needed a shift for my version, and that's simply the fact that I think there was a missed opportunity in Ferenia to have different contrasting moods as the game evolves. If you turn off the sound and just look at this area as you're moving through it when you first arrive, there's this sense of mystique and wonder as you go through what seems to be a sanctuary for the Chozo. And Ferenia as a whole memorable, for me, it was one of the more memorable areas visually. I love the use of depth as you move through the different rooms of statues and what seems to be these religious symbols and relics, and there's a bit of a let up of intense action, and you're really able to take in all of these visual things going on around you. And honestly, I think the vibe of the music, for lack of a better term, actually doesn't do a great service to Ferenia, at least not when you first arrive. I would have liked this area to have 2 different tracks actually, one for when you first explore it and one for when you return after the extra release, and there's a much different threat of danger. So I'm actually splitting this area into 2 videos and 2 tracks, one for each of those ideas. It's that simple few seconds of the track in the beginning I wanted to expand upon in my version for this first section. I really love the haunting choral voices and how the pitch slides down and has almost that horror movie score effect. And the overall direction I took uses a lot of the ideas from the original, but there's a completely changed atmosphere, and I essentially slowed and stretched everything out with more space and ambience because I wanted it to feel like you're in a sacred space, almost like a monastery where you might hear chants and voices echoing from across different rooms. I even took a sample of Quiet Robe talking and used it for that effect. The next video I'll do on this area will probably be a little more faithful to the original score, but for this first Ferenia area, I just felt like it needed this little bit of a different texture and different mood. So here's my part 1 of this Ferenia area, and I really hope you enjoy.